I think a lot of the times when I start talking about these things, people go, well, you're a dietitian. Like, shouldn't you be talking about food? And it's like, well, yes, I'm a dietitian and that is what my education is in, but it's all tied together. I can't talk about food without talking about our relationship to our body, our relationship to movement, and all of the oppressive systems that exist within this, and why diet culture is the way it is today and why it's so loud.
Welcome to another episode of the Creators for Change podcast, where we spotlight change makers who use social media to promote good causes. Today, we are honored to be joined by Abbey Roberts from Fork Diet Culture. Abbey is a master's level registered dietitian and exercise psychologist with a background in clinical nutrition and therapy. She specializes in size-inclusive nutrition therapy for eating disorders, and she is the founder of Fork Diet Culture. So we have some community questions from her, which we're going to save until the end. But first, Abbey, could you tell us what diet culture even is for those who don't know? And what does it mean to break free from it?
Yeah, well, hello. I'm really excited to be here. Okay, so diet culture. Ooh, it's a big one, right? Like there's so many different aspects of it. We could include the supplement industry, we could include the whole like fitness industry, we could include different diets, we could include, all these different programs like Weight Watchers, Noom, MyFitnessPal. There's so many different areas in this, but I think really at its core, diet culture is just this collection of different oppressive systems that are telling you that there is something wrong with your body and weight loss is the answer. Achieving the ideal body, which hint is unattainable, is the answer, and that will solve all of life's problems. And once you reach that goal weight, whoo, like life is just smooth sailing from there. So it's a lot of smoke and mirrors. It's a lot of time, money, energy that you're investing into this thing, that what you're getting back, it's not much. It's kind of this just hamster wheel. It's this moving goalpost, right? Like diet culture is something where if we wanted to be engaging in that for our entire lives, we certainly could, because they're always going to be coming out with a new diet, new product, new miracle supplement, drug, whatever. And they're really good about marketing it, and they're really good about creating new insecurities to keep profiting off of.
Yeah, and here on the Creators for Change podcast, we are very clear that there is a light side of capitalism and a bit of a shadow and a dark side. So
Mm-hmm.
Abby here started Fork Diet Culture and she's taking entrepreneurial approaches, and we encourage that. We think it's beautiful to have your own system and do what you're passionate about and help other people through a product or service. However, Abby is shedding light on some of the darker sides, and that comes oftentimes in our diet culture around how food is marketed. And we're going to break down today more about the shadows and some things to look out for. But before we do, Abby, so what exactly does it mean to break free from diet culture? What does that look like for someone? What does that entail? How does that change their life?
Yeah. It's funny that you asked that, because I was just in Wisconsin visiting family, and I was talking with my grandma, who has always been super entrenched in diet culture. And she is kind of my go-to person of like, Nana, what is the newest diet that we're talking about today? Like, what is the hot topic? And I think really what it means, and it's so sad, because I think when I think about my grandma, she's 85 and she's still always worried about her weight and what does her body look like. And I was like, Nana, has anyone ever told you that your worth is not in your body? That you don't need to be constantly looking at weight loss as this measure of success or if you're enough? And I just kind of, whenever I'm having conversations with her, I just have this sad but also helpful realization of, I don't want to be in my 80s and still so hyper focused on my weight and think that that is the most important thing, interesting thing about me. And so I think what it means to break free from diet culture is really just getting your life back, recognizing that, you know, your friends, your family don't love you because of your body. And honestly, if they do, ew, like that's gross. And that's such a bigger reflection on them and their values of their body and how they're prioritizing, you know, their body and their worth within diet culture and these systems. But I think also when we think about it, you know, I've asked clients before, you know, how much time do you think you've invested in diets? How much money do you think you've invested in the diet or wellness industry? How many times have you felt disappointed because you were sold this, you know, promise of this is the diet for you. This is going to change everything for you. And then it ended up just like the last diet and the one before that and the one before that. And so really, I think it's reclaiming your body, your mental health, your money, your time, your energy. I think really at an umbrella glance, like that's what it means to break free from diet culture is just reclaiming so much of your life.
Beautifully said. And it sounds like there's really two parts of this because, yes, it's reclaiming your own worth and feeling really good in your body now, not after some diet, not after some milestone now. But it sounds like another aspect of it is seeing others too as worthy, regardless of their body image. I was
Mhm.
watching some of your content, and you even mentioned that sometimes we look at other cultures or even other people's body and we make assumptions. So I think the other part of diet culture is not just how we view ourselves, but how we view and treat other people. Would you agree?
Mhm. Well, yes, completely. Completely. To add to that too, I think so especially here in America, the idea that health is this moral virtue and that someone deserves care or respect based on what their health status is or what their body size is or how they look is horrible. And it's not based in anything except discrimination and stigma and again all these oppressive systems. And I think all it does is continue to push this idea again of there's an ideal body and that it's something that is attainable for everyone, which we know that it's not. We know that these things are unattainable for a reason. So they can continue to get us buying into the diet and wellness industry. But it's harmful for everyone when we look at something as, you know, assuming or judging someone on their health status because of their body, assuming or judging something about someone because of their ethnicity or the color of their skin or whatever it might be. We think that it's only harming that person, but it's harming the person that's judging and assuming too. So it's something that goes so much deeper than just, oh, I want to be thin, and that person's not thin, and so I'm allowed to assume or judge them. It's horrible.
Yeah, it is. Something we're a big advocate for is being very, very self-aware. And so I can recall times, and I'll be honest, I've judged people because of how they look or because of their ethnicity, I'm very self-aware and I'm like, okay, like that wasn't me. That's just what I learned from, people in my family and the school system, what you see on TV.
Yeah.
So, for those of you listening, just be self-aware. Ask yourself, have you maybe been guilty of judging yourself or other people based on their body image or their culture or something else? Just be self-aware and then reflect, okay, why do I think this way? Why do I act this way? And awareness is always the first key. So, Abby, now you got me curious because when people like take on this life path, it's always so interesting to me because it's like, wow, like this is your mission, this is your purpose, you're going all in with it. And so I'm curious, what early messages or experiences did you have to open your eyes to how there's something wrong with diet culture and I actually want to make a difference and a change. So what are some of those experiences growing up that led you to this point?
Oh my goodness. I don't know where to start. I think one thing that I wrote that you can see on my website or on my social media is just the outline of my story. Part of that being running track and field, and just the really strong comparisons that I would make between my fellow teammates and myself. And I really had this aspiration of running in college, and I was also just really bogged down with diet culture messaging, and whether that was coming from social media, whether that was things that my teammates were saying about their own bodies, or how they were viewing food or calling themselves bad because they ate X food that day or they ate X amount that day. um, or whether it's things in passing that you hear from your parents, right? Whether it's oh, do you really need seconds, or oh, are you sure that you want that food right now, or are you really hungry? um, and I always like to preface this too with, you know I think when we are talking about childhood or our roots and growing up and the different things that impacted us, and so like let's say our parents, for example, I don't think it's helpful for us to point fingers at them and say, "Oh, you did this wrong and, this is why, like this is an issue." But instead recognizing, "Hey, they are also growing up in a diet-centric world. They're using, the tools that they have and they're trying to do their best." And to them, they might have thought that that is what was healthy, right? And so now we're rewriting that. Something I talk about a lot with clients is ending that generational trauma within dieting and diet culture. And, we can still help parents kind of rewrite that and have different perspectives. But again, going back to the curiosity and compassion aspect of it. And so when I look back on that, I think, there's definitely challenges there of, oh, that was really sad that, those are things that so many people are struggling with. But also it makes sense in this world that we live in. um, I think other parts of it too was, when we look at the media and movies, TVs, think about what the villain character looks like, right? They're usually in a larger body, fat, they're made them look scary, ugly, disfigured. It's setting this message again that fat is bad. When I think about growing up as an athlete, there was very much this message sent of there was a right way to look as an athlete, and you needed to have a six pack and be super muscular. And if you didn't, you weren't going to be fast or strong or agile. So I think a lot of that definitely seeped into my thoughts about myself. And I'm someone that, yeah, I grew up as an athlete, but I never had a six pack. I never had abs. It just wasn't in my genetics. But that's not what you're taught. You're taught that, oh, well, that's just wrong. And that you just need more discipline, right? We just throw genetics out the window. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Oh, it did. It did.
Okay.
It absolutely did. And I want to commend you for sharing that story now. And you even went deeper on it in your Instagram stories. And I actually read through that. So I really commend you, Abby, for just speaking so openly about your experiences because that's important. Because when you shared your story, I was telling you this before the episode started, I was like, me too. I was in track and field. I was comparing myself to other people. I had these misconceptions. And so that's the power in social media, everyone. And we encourage you to use it to share your story because that's when we realize, oh, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one who experiences this. And then we can
Mhm.
rise together. So I
Yeah.
wanted to commend you for that.
Well,
And
thank you.
so I watched quite a bit of your content, and by the way, very eye-opening. So if you aren't already following Abby on Instagram, I'll put a link down below. But in your content, you shared some common diet culture biases and malpractices, especially around racism and white supremacy. Could you share with the audience what are some biases around that, and what does that create in diet culture?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For people that are interested and wanting more on this subject, and where I've learned all of this from too, is from the books Fearing the Black Body and The Body is Not an Apology. Both are excellent books that are tying all of this in together. Sabrina Strings and Sonia Renee Taylor. And so highly recommend. Where, when we think of anti-fat bias, fat phobia, where that's coming from, that was coming from oppressing the Black body. It's based in racism. When we were, coming out of, and I always get my dates mixed up, but when we were starting to like come out of slavery, which there's still slavery still exists today. I want to preface that, but just for general purposes, um, the Black body was looked at lesser than, and they were told that your body is wrong and your body is larger than your white counterpart. The white counterpart has ownership over the Black body. And so that's where this fat phobia really stemmed from. It's horrible, it is oppressive, it's stigmatizing, and yet we still see it today in 2025. When we go deeper into it, the body positivity movement started from Black women. They were reclaiming the word fat, they were reclaiming their bodies. And then we had white creators who were thin coming into that space on Instagram. The body positivity movement started back in the 50s, 60s, 70s. And then when Instagram became a thing, a lot of white creators started taking on the body positivity movement and starting to reframe it as love your body all the time, always be super positive about your body, while doing body checks and showing their thin bodies. That is not me saying that their bodies are wrong or that it's a bad thing to be, in a thin body, but that is not the messaging of the body positivity movement. So it took on this whole new meaning. When we see, other oppressive systems like white supremacy very much puts an emphasis on purity culture, thinness, whiteness, gender roles like the trad wife, traditional wife aesthetic. And so all of that comes into play when we're thinking about thinness and how this is the quote unquote ideal. I think a lot of the times when I start talking about these things, people go, well, you're a dietitian. Like, shouldn't you be talking about food? And it's like, well, yes, I'm a dietitian and that is what my education is in, but it's all tied together. I can't talk about food without talking about our relationship to our body, our relationship to movement, and all of the oppressive systems that exist within this, and why diet culture is the way it is today and why it's so loud. So there's so many other aspects that we could go into with that, but I think those are kind of the two main topics within, when talking about oppressive systems and bodies and diet culture that I bring up, I think, the most. And again, those two books I highly recommend.
Yeah, and it's super important. So, and I would agree, like those are some of the biggest biases and malpractices and just things that cause our vision to be distorted. When I was
Mm-hmm.
going through your social media, you named a number of other biases. You were talking about things like body shaming and gender differences as well. Uh,
Yeah.
even like certain foods, you were talking about misconceptions, like for example about seed oils. Many people think that they're poison, but you talk about how, you can consume them. So they do have a place in our diets. So I do encourage people to check out Abby's Instagram because you just break down a bunch of misconceptions and it's very eye-opening. And Abby, one thing I want to commend you for is like just thank you for sharing this. Thank you for having an open mind because as I was reading your bio, you mentioned I'm aware of my privilege as a white cisgendered straight size and able-bodied person. So I'm curious like what caused you to like keep such an open mind and an open heart?
Mm.
Most people don't do that, with those circumstances.
Yeah, and I grew up in a small town in North Phoenix, Arizona, where it's a pretty red part of the state. And so that really wasn't like how this was all talked about. It was very black and white, cut and dry in the way that we talked about bodies and politics and had no, recollection of talking about oppressive systems. And really, it was not until I will kind of preface this too by saying that those are always things that didn't sit right with me, and I always thought that there was more to the conversation, but I didn't have the words or the knowledge, the resources to expand on any of that. So it really wasn't until I would say my eating disorder, honestly, in college, where I kind of got to this point where I was like, there has to be something else. There has to be more to this because I can't keep living my life in always checking the calories and counting my food and working out until I'm just hating life. And I, at the time, didn't really know about therapy in the way that therapy worked. I didn't know that dietitians existed or that dietitians could help with an eating disorder recovery. And so it was through, some of my own research, which I don't really recommend. uh, but it was through some of my own research where I started to look at health at every size and weight neutrality, weight inclusivity. And that really started to open my eyes to everything. Health at every size is based in this acknowledgement and in a lot of different research that says that healthy and unhealthy don't have a look. It's not any certain size. Healthy and unhealthy can exist in larger bodies, at smaller bodies, but a larger person is not automatically unhealthy, just as a smaller body person is not automatically healthy. And weight inclusivity is looking at, again, not stigmatizing people and reducing them to, a number on the BMI scale and not, again, assuming health status and treating them as such. Looking at health as something where it is so dynamic and there's so many social determinants of health that very much matter within this conversation. And that's really where I started to get this passion for dietetics. And I originally went to dietetics with the idea of, oh, this is going to teach me how to eat super healthy. And then lo and behold, I learned about health at every size, weight inclusivity, and it opened my eyes to so much more. And so within that, I think that opened the doors to, again, fearing the Black body, your body's not an apology, intuitive eating, so many other creators that have been talking about this for decades and going, oh my God, the information is here. It's not readily available because our culture is so obsessed with whiteness and thinness. So yeah, and I think too, especially in 2020, with the BLM movement, it was very much, I was learning so much from the BIPOC community and the Black, Indigenous, people of color, these creators and dietitians in this space where, again, social determinants of health, and then as well as just amplifying their voices. I was seeing so many white folks, white creators, white dietitians, and I'll also say the dietetic space is predominantly white. That's also because of oppressive systems, and it's not, it's expensive to get education, and the dietetic internship is unpaid and you're paying for it. And so that's really challenging. And that comes with a lot of privilege. And typically that is white privilege. And I was just learning so much from them and going, again, the information is there, but no one is hearing it because no one is listening to them. And so furthering their messages, amplifying that, and wanting to partner more with Black dietitians. And I think, again, it's one of those things where we think it's only harming people of color, and it's not. It's harming everyone because we're all part of this system. And acknowledging your privilege doesn't take anything away from you, but it's helping give other people an opportunity to share their experiences and put a flashlight on these oppressive systems and go, yeah, this is not okay. This is not justice.
Mm-hmm. Beautifully said. And again, I hope that inspires some people listening because maybe some of you have privilege. And like Abby said, by acknowledging it, that's not taking anything away from you. But
Mhm.
there comes a purpose and fulfillment with helping other people rise because, like Abby said, like we're in this together and we're all connected. And so we can make for a much better future by just acknowledging these things, helping others rise too. And so thank you, Abby, for sharing that background story of how you opened your eyes. And so once you woke up to this issue and you knew, okay, this is what I want to do, what exactly did you do next? How did you come up with the steps? And you could even talk about your entrepreneurial journey as well, because you
Yeah.
mentioned too that you were like afraid to start, but what made those steps worth pursuing? What motivated you?
Yeah, I was I worked in clinical at first. I was just in an adult inpatient hospital as a dietitian. That was my first job as a dietitian. And, you know, people don't go to the hospital for nutrition education. Like that's the last thing that they want to hear from. And anytime I would go in for a nutrition education, if I wasn't doing like nutrition support, I go, this is so pointless. Like this is not helping the person in any way. This is not preventative in any way. And again, like our healthcare system, there's a lot of issues with it. And that could be a whole other conversation. And how we're talking about like social determinants of health. But I then, started to go more into sports nutrition and then started to see again, like, wow, a lot of these athletes are struggling with disordered eating or eating disorders. And that's not what we're focusing on here. It's just again their performance. And so I saw issues there. And so then I went into another private practice and was working more within eating disorders, but just seeing there were a lot of things that I wanted to do in addition to the nutrition counseling aspect that just there wasn't the space for in that practice. And so I started Fork Diet Culture. And through that, I wanted to, yes, have one-on-one spaces, but also seeing that, wow, working with a dietitian is really expensive. And so how can we make this more accessible? So we started getting a network with different insurance companies and offering sliding scale fees to better match, what better suited the client based on their income. And now we are in the process of getting a network with over 1,200 different insurances across multiple states in the country to just try and offer more of that care, as well as getting a network with Medicaid. And then outside of that too, it's like, well, not everyone has insurance. And then insurance premiums are super expensive, or there's copays that are expensive. And like there's issues within that too. So then it was, okay, how else can we offer things? Well, social media, my podcast, which I need to get back to because it's been a hot minute since I've recorded on that. But how many other free things could we offer? So anything on our social media, we have a blog, we have the podcast, and then people that wanted a little bit more support. We offer a $9 per month community where we're now going to be doing meal support groups in there where we just eat together and just normalize food and talk about ways to add food to our plates, destigmatize mealtime, help clients who maybe were in eating disorder treatment centers and just the stress and anxiety that can come up with eating in those places and environments, as well as, having access to dietitians and all of the resources that we share with our clients, but at $9 a month rather than $150 for a 1 hour session. So we keep trying to find ways to make it accessible in a very inaccessible world and climate. And I think too, the other thing is in acknowledging that privilege and continuing to question my own biases and as well as the dietitians on the team, them questioning their biases as well, we can support more folks and be an actual safe space, which I think is so needed right now in this political climate. So we're constantly, either listening to other creators, reading books, listening to podcasts about other people's experiences that are different from ours, and then centering our clients' experiences in those one-on-one sessions and going, hey, we don't know what it's like to exist in your body, only you do. And so whether that's practicing harm reduction, whether that's helping them find what healthy looks like and feels like to them, whether it's looking at meeting them where they're at and what resources they have available to them and giving realistic nutrition interventions rather than, oh, just eat 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. And it's like, well, I don't have access to that many fruits and vegetables. um, so yeah, again, a lot of different things kind of coming all into that. But always trying to look at how can we be as accessible and as inclusive as possible, which includes hiring, dietitians who look different from me and have different backgrounds and use different pronouns and aren't cisgendered, different sexualities, so that we can, again, be more accessible and inclusive.
I love that. Everyone, I want to shine a big light on Abby right now because it's a perfect embodiment of who a creator for change is. A creator for change sees a problem in the world and they want to help fix it. So that's really phase one is acknowledging, hey, I have this mission, I want to pursue it. And really, the next step is getting the message out there through social media. And that's powerful, like we explained, because it helps other people resonate with your story and you can
Mhm.
deliver value and insights to them. And it leads
Mhm.
to bigger opportunities like how we're doing this podcast. And now we can spread this to even more people and help them open their eyes. And then you took it even a step further by having this community and the one-on-one. And so that's what we encourage. And then over time, you can scale that, really give back. Because the more money you have, the more you can give. You know, that
Mhm.
$9 that Abby's charging, it's out of service to make it accessible. And then I'm sure, Abby, with that money, you're going to reinvest it back into your software and to continue delivering value. So this is the
Yeah.
light side of capitalism. This is what we this is what we love.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, for the $9 a month community, what we use for that money is to help us be able to afford a larger sliding scale fee. So for people who don't have insurance, or their insurance is, again, like really high copays, or it doesn't cover much of medical nutrition therapy, which is what our service is under insurance as dietitians. It helps us to, charge less of the fee for those folks, and they can still access that care. So, yeah, the lighter side of capitalism. I have not heard that term, and I like that.
Yeah, we get the lighter side and we get the shadow side, as I call it.
Yeah, I
So
like it.
you mentioned earlier, Abby, that a lot of things are connected. Like we have the food industry that's connected to politics, that's connected to the media, that's connected to oppressive systems. It's like this is all a big web. And I believe for those of you listening, whatever that mission is that calls on your heartstrings, I bet it's connected somehow in this web. And so, Abby, what is your advice to someone who wants to do something, or maybe they already are doing something, but maybe there's still some fears around speaking up, sharing their story online? What's your advice to them?
Yeah, it is scary. I'll start there. It is scary. Um, and I think there's also this it feels, God, what's the word, like it's the best thing and like the sexy thing to go viral on the internet. That is when I'm most anxious, is when things go viral. I do not like that, because you got both sides of the internet, people that like the content and people that very much hate the content that are coming into the comments and the DMs. So care less about going viral, care less about, having your message met with all these people. Just start with, what message do you think needs to be heard in this moment? Or what message is calling to you right now and what needs to be shared? Because that's going to be different every single moment, every single day. Um, I think too, you know, I think share with what you're comfortable and safe sharing within your personal story. Again, it's the internet, but also it's okay to get outside of your comfort zone a little bit and be a little controversial and share some different tidbits of, hey, I know that this is what we think as a society, but could there be other points of view here? Could there be other things that we could add into the context of this conversation? Is it really this black and white? So an example, that I use all the time with food is, we look at food as something as good versus bad, very black and white. And it's not. Food does not have moral value. And whenever I share that on the internet, it's usually met with a lot of criticism, because that is not how we talk about food as a society. We think that we are inherently bad if we eat quote unquote bad food, and we're good and we did something good if we eat quote unquote good food. And yet that further promotes this stigma and diet culture and fat phobia and fear around food that I then argue, is that healthy? Maybe it is for someone. I don't know. It's not for me to say. Personally, I don't find that to be healthy. Um, so when we're sharing these things on the internet, and I'm by no means an expert on this. I'm constantly, learning things about the internet and learning from fellow creators and things and how to share messages and ways to get people to listen to your message. But I really do think it's sharing with um, what your passions are, your interests are, and not being afraid to be controversial,
That's
which is scary. I'll say that it's scary.
It is scary, and what I'll add on is over time your skin gets a bit thicker. And when
Yeah.
when you have when you have a passion and a mission that's so strong, it's one of those things where if the cost of pursuing that is a few negative comments, I mean, I hope you'd be willing to pay that everyone every day of the week. Because I mean that's what it takes. Maybe, yeah, some people it shuts them
Yeah.
down. Usually things that are triggering for people, it can actually lead to their eyes opening up later. When we're met with a new idea, there's naturally resistance. So keep that in mind too.
Yeah.
And people are people and you got to honor their journey, but and it's well worth it. And that leads to my next question. So, Abby, with starting Fork Diet Culture, what has been like the most unexpected or powerful thing that came from building the brand and the community?
Yes. I think kind of the theme of what we've been talking about today is just challenging my own biases and getting discomfort or getting uncomfortable in my own privilege. And again, seeing that that's not taking anything away from me, but also it's taught me so much about myself too. Like, I was able to be curious and receive a diagnosis for ADHD. And that helped me understand so much about my life and my experiences around food and relationship with food and body. It helped me to better then understand my clients who are neurodivergent and connect more with them. It allowed me to question my sexuality and see that, oh, I thought this was such a bad thing about myself, but it's not. It's who I am. And this is really beautiful. And realizing that I'm bisexual and that's okay. And then further connecting with other folks in the LGBTQI plus community. And so, it's become something that I had no idea becoming a dietitian and then having my own practice would lead to so much connection through the discomfort of, again, uprooting all these things that I believed for so long, whether it was about myself, others, food, body, diet culture. And I think that that's really the thing too of disordered eating and eating disorders or just chronic dieting. It's so isolating. And we think that that is the only way to quote unquote be healthy or be accepted, be enough. And then when we start challenging that, questioning it, being curious and compassionate, we start to see, oh, there's other things out there for me. This does not define me. It's okay if this is part of my past. There's other people that I can connect with who are going to see me for me and not for the way my body looks. And I think that that has been such a cool part to see that for not only myself, but my clients and people I connect with on the internet and my other dietitians that are part of the team. Um, yeah, I think that is always the most rewarding part of this work in the community.
And you tapped into a big area that's not many people talk about. Because when I ask people this question, often they're like, oh, the client success, the money, but for you, it's the fulfillment that comes from it and really that self-discovery journey. And I talk about that too, how when you build a brand and you pursue a mission, it's not just
Mm,
about what happens on the external, it's also like the internal, that there's such transformation, there's such
yeah.
healing. And I don't know, there's something like don't know what the word is. I find it really fun, and I think like life just becomes more exciting when you're on
Yes.
a journey of like bettering yourself and bettering other people. And when you pursue that journey, like that's all that helped me solve my mental health issues when I started in college. And so, like at Creators for
So
Change,
cool.
our cause for the year is mental health. So we're partnered with a nonprofit to raise money for that. But we also try to give you the tools to improve your mental health. And, both Abby and I are advocates that, yeah, like starting a personal brand and a mission gives you so much purpose and fulfillment. Yes, it's
Mhm.
uncomfortable, but a lot of growth comes from that. So we encourage you to start or to keep going if you're ready going with this. So do you want to add to that? Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like what you said in the very beginning of resonating with my story. I never in a million years when I started this thought that anyone would resonate with my story. And it's crazy, again, because of the isolation piece, when you start sharing, something I talk about with clients a lot is how shame really thrives in secrecy. And a great way to build resilience to shame is talking about it with someone that's trusted, whether that's a professional, a friend, a family member. And so in sharing my story, sure, maybe it wasn't the most trusted, safest space when it's on the internet, but it was really cool in how many people over the years have said, wow, I really resonate with that part in your story, or that made me think of this part where I didn't think anyone went through that. But wow, you shared that and you did too. So I think that's also what's really cool about, this space, this community that you and I are both part of, where there's becoming more of this sharing, transparency, which just helps people see that they're not alone. And I think that that is so impactful.
100%. And not to get too deep and philosophical, but like I think that's what makes the human experience worth living is when we connect
Yes.
with other humans. And I don't know, there's not even words to it. It just because so many people are struggling with loneliness and lack of purpose, and this path it just brings
Mhm.
out so much. So last question, Abby, before we transition into
Yeah.
the questions from your community members. So
Yeah.
I'm just curious, like, what's your wildest vision for fork diet culture? Like, how do you hope to like shift our culture, make a bigger impact and a bigger movement? How does that look like?
This is something I think about all the time. And then I want to do all the things. And then I go, oh my God, it's too much. So right now I've been focusing on just expanding the insurance that we can accept as well as Medicaid. Medicaid is something it's if you're someone that works with insurance, you know what a pain it is to work with insurance. It's so confusing. Um, so I'm really excited for that to start to come through because that'll open up so many doors for so many folks in receiving weight inclusive, trauma informed care with dietitians. Um, but I think right now it's just continuing that, adding these weight inclusive providers to our team, um, increasing the accessibility of that care because weight inclusive care is so far and few between. I want to continue meeting with other healthcare providers and helping them understand why inclusive care is so important and needed, especially within like primary care physicians. Um, I think that's very much the route that I'm trying to go right now. In any way that we can just continuing having this conversation, um, weight inclusivity, increasing that and the understanding around it and what that means.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, beautifully said. And that's such a big problem that you're tackling. But like, I believe that everything you're doing is creating ripples and it's expanding in ways that we can't fully see. Okay, so let's transition into some quick questions from your community. The first one
So
was, what are some easy on the go high fiber snacks?
yes. So for that, this is not an inclusive list. Like your food preferences matter, and we would very much pull from that if this was like a one-on-one client, but just some random examples. It could be things like frozen grapes. I love those during the summer, or regular grapes. It could be chips, whatever chip or cracker you want, and guacamole and or salsa. It could be veggies and hummus, or chips and crackers, pita chips and hummus, pretzels and peanut butter, yogurt and granola, popcorn, dried fruit. Oh my God, I had a whole trail mix. Um, there's so many different things that we could do. There's, oh, like, I love anything that is just like prepackaged and on the go. So whether that is chips, pretzels, crackers, you name it, we could always look at adding like the dried fruit with that. We could look at, adding popcorn and kind of like a trail mix situation, and then any kind of fresh fruit or veggies, or if you like smoothies, whether it's a pre-made or a homemade smoothie. Yeah, those are some different options, but again, not all inclusive. It's so funny how it doesn't matter how many times someone asks me about snack ideas, meal ideas, I always draw a blank, even if I'm prepared for the question. And then I'm like, where's my list?
No,
But yeah,
that
those
was a
go-tos.
lot. And note to self, bringing on someone in the food industry, eat a full meal before, because you just made me so hungry. That all sounds really good. I thought that was a really good list, Abby. Next question from your community. How do you improve body image during recovery?
Yeah, so many ways we could go with that, but the one of my favorite things to go back to, and something I use with all of my clients and I use for myself when I'm having bad body image days, is what is this? I'm uncomfortable if it's not about my body. Because when we think about body image, we automatically think that, oh, I'm feeling uncomfortable. Well, it must be because my body must be the problem. So I need to lose weight. I need to change my body. Instead, going, whoa, let's take a little pause there. Stop, pause. Sometimes saying that out loud too can be helpful, and going, what is this? I'm uncomfortable if it's not about my body. Is it a sensation? Am I wearing certain clothes that are tight and digging into my body, and that's really uncomfortable? Is there a tag on my shirt that's itchy and that's really uncomfortable? Am I sweating and my clothes are sticking to me, or I'm hot and that's uncomfortable? Is it I'm in an uncomfortable situation? Am I presenting something? Am I public speaking? Are people looking at me? Did I just get in an argument with someone? Am I stressed? Am I anxious? Is there a memory, a thought, an emotion that's coming up? What else could there be that's causing discomfort? And then could we go, okay, do I need to change my clothes? Do I need to cool down? Do I need to do a little breathing exercise? Do I need to call a trusted friend or loved one? Um, do I need to change where I'm at? Like if I'm super stressed at my desk right now, could it help if I just leave this room and just kind of take a little moment to kind of recollect my thoughts and calm down? Um, any one of those things can be really helpful in shifting that discomfort and helping kind of realize, okay, it's not that my body is the problem, it's that there's another thing coming up, another stimulus that's creating that feeling. And
Mm.
that in turn over time can help us decouple those two thoughts and go, okay, two things can exist. I can feel discomfort in my body, and that does not mean that my body is the problem.
I never even thought of it that way.
No,
Thank
that is one of my go-tos. I think
you.
if a client is listening to us, they're going, oh yeah, Abby says that a lot.
It's good. It's good. I never it takes a lot of self-awareness, it sounds like, when coming to these answers.
It does. And, that's something that I tell clients, it takes practice, and that's okay. So we do it together in sessions. I have them practice it when they're feeling, neutral or accepting in their body, of, hey, is there any discomfort, other things I could be feeling right now? Because then in those times where we need that tool, it's easier to access. And also very transparent with, hey, sometimes we're going to use that tool and it's not going to be super helpful. And that's okay. Still does not mean your body's the problem.
Hmm. Beautiful. Last question from your
Yes.
community. Thoughts on the GLP-1 Ozemic craze? Could you first explain what that is and what your thoughts are?
Yes. So Ozempic was originally a medication for glucagon like peptide 1, which is a hormone in your body. It's helping to stabilize blood sugar for type 2 diabetes. And Ozempic is really helpful for diabetes in lowering your hemoglobin A1C, which is like the average of your blood sugar, and helping to reduce overall symptoms within type 2 diabetes. And yet, through that, they saw, oh, weight loss is a side effect of this. So if we change the dose and we sell it as another drug, then we can, quote unquote, solve the obesity epidemic, which I hate that terminology, because it's very stigmatizing. It's making it seem like fat bodies are wrong and that we can, just everyone can be thin. But fat bodies have always existed. It's not a wrong way to have a body. Fat bodies will continue to exist. That being said, when clients are curious with using a GLP-1, whether it's semaglutide, Saxenda, Wegovy, you name it, there's so many different names out there now. I always look at it from a perspective of harm reduction. What is it like navigating the world in your body? If someone is in a larger body, there's a lot of things that are inaccessible. Stadium seating, the blood pressure cuff at the doctor's office, the gown at the doctor's office, weight limits on amusement park rides, you name it. There's a lot of different things that if you're in a straight size body, you probably just don't even realize or think about. And so I'm very curious with them on that, is what is the world like navigating your body? What have you been told about your body over the years? What would it mean for you to lose weight? And through that, it's still not my place, or I don't view it as my place as a provider to tell them that they can or cannot use Ozempic. But I will still give them, hey, these are the side effects of taking this medication. I want you to be fully aware of what to expect with this so that you can make an informed choice. I want to make sure that clients are aware that, gastroparesis, which is paralysis of the stomach, can occur. Diarrhea, vomiting, nausea, headaches, not eating enough, so malnutrition can all be side effects of this drug. It doesn't mean that that's what will happen, but we need to be aware that those are real side effects. If I'm working with a client who is taking Ozempic, while I am not a weight loss focused dietitian, I still believe the desire to want to lose weight makes sense. Again, with our whole conversation we've had today, the oppressive systems, navigating the world in your body, that is different for every single person and impacts every single person differently. And so if we can reduce harm, whether it's, hey, how can we figure out ways for you to eat consistently throughout the day? Do we need to check lab work and make sure that you're not deficient in certain things? If you are experiencing nausea or vomiting or these dangerous side effects, is it we need to chat with your doctor and reduce the dose that you're taking? Is it that, there's another medication or food or modality that could help reduce that side effect? So that's how I approach it with clients. Is I'm not here to tell you what to do with your body, but I definitely want to keep you safe and reduce harm. And I want you to be fully informed.
Sounds like maybe some one-on-one support would be good for people with specific concerns, which you offer.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. And then I always say too, work with your doctor as well. If you don't need to go through, like if you're really adamant on taking one of those drugs and you want to do one of the compounded ones through like a separate business, which there's so many of those now, please also consult with your doctor. And if you can access it, work with a dietitian.
Got it. Okay. I will put your link down below for your one-on-one, your membership.
Oh,
I'll put your website and your Instagram.
yeah.
So, any other links there that I missed?
I think you tackled them all.
Perfect. Abby, this was an extremely powerful episode. I want to thank you. For those of you
Thank
listening,
you.
leave a comment down below about what your biggest takeaway was and what it is that you are unlearning when it comes to diet culture. And I know for me, my list is going to be quite long. Thank you, Abby, here. But Abby, any last final thoughts or takeaway messages?
No, just thank you so much for having me, and thank you for the platform that you have too, and the messages that you're continuing to share and amplify. I'm really
It is
grateful
our
for
pleasure.
you.
It's our pleasure. Thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you for the next episode.